Bonjour et bienvenue dans la salle de presse de la Commission européenne. Je suis ravie de vous retrouver virtuellement pour le Midday Briefing, la réunion de presse quotidienne. Nous sommes le mardi 29 septembre et j'ai quelques annonces à vous faire. Let me start with two updates to the agenda of President von der Leyen for this week. On Thursday, the President will receive Mr. Andrej Plenković, the Prime Minister of Croatia. Later that day, she will receive Mr. Sebastian Kurz, the Chancellor of Austria. Puis, comme chaque mardi, je partage avec vous l'agenda du collège pour demain. D'abord, demain, le collège adoptera les tout premiers rapports sur l'état des droits en Europe, couvrant toute l'Union. La vice-présidente Jourova viendra en salle de presse pour vous donner les comptes rendus de la réunion du collège de demain. Ensuite, elle vous présentera ce rapport avec le commissaire Reinders. Ensuite, le collège discutera deux initiatives, un espace européen de l'éducation et un plan d'action pour l'éducation numérique. Ce dernier tiendra notamment compte des enseignements tirés de la crise du coronavirus et mettra l'accent sur les compétences numériques renforcées. Et enfin, le collège discutera également une communication sur un nouvel espace européen pour la recherche et l'innovation, afin notamment de soutenir la relance et accompagner la double transition verte et numérique de l'Europe. Nous allons vous communiquer les arrangements de presse sur ces trois communications ultérieurement. Et maintenant, je donne la parole à Johannes pour une annonce sur l'Alliance européenne sur les matières premières.
Merci beaucoup, Dana, et bon après-midi. Cet après-midi, à 14 h, le vice-président Maroš Šefčovič et le commissaire Thierry Breton lanceront l'Alliance européenne des matières premières. L'objectif principal de cette alliance est de connecter les acteurs industriels, les États membres et la société civile afin de renforcer l'autonomie stratégique des chaînes de valeur, des terres rares et des amants en Europe. Plus spécifiquement, l'Alliance vise à identifier les obstacles, opportunités et possibilités d'investissement à toutes les étapes de la chaîne de valeur des matières premières, de l'exploitation minière à la valorisation des déchets, tout en abordant en même temps la durabilité et les impacts sociaux. Annoncée dans la stratégie industrielle du 10 mars de cette année, l'Alliance est la première action du plan d'action sur les matières premières critiques, plan publié en septembre. Le lancement sera transmis en direct sur EBS et nous avons, comme d'habitude, plus d'informations dans notre Daily News.
Merci beaucoup, Johannes. And to finish, I have three more announcements to make. First, the European Union continues to invest in clean transport with 54 million euros from the Connecting Europe facility. This money will be invested in 5 projects, including clean buses, electric charging, infrastructure, and rail traffic management systems in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. You will find more information about this in our daily news. And I will finish the updates with updates regarding participation by college members to council meetings today. So today, Maria Gabriel, the Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, participates in the Competitiveness Council dedicated to research and innovation. The discussion today is covering several points, including additional funding for innovation under Next Generation EU, the breakdown of Horizon Europe's budget, as well as international cooperation. This afternoon at 3:15, an online press conference will be held with Commissioner Gabriel and German Minister of Education and Research, Anja Karliczek. And finally, please stay tuned after this midday briefing because at 1 o'clock you will have a technical briefing off the record on the European Interoperability Gateway Service for coronavirus tracking, tracing and warning apps. So with that, we are ready for your announcements. And I see that Catalin's hand is raised. Catalin, go ahead. Katalin.
Yes, I am here. Thank you very much, Dana. This is about the letter Prime Minister Orban sent to President von der Leyen, and I have a couple of questions in connection with this. In this letter, Prime Minister Orban declares that the statements of Vice President Jourova are incompatible with her mandate and asks for her resignation. So when Vice President Jourova told Der Spiegel magazine that Hungary is an ill democracy, did she express her personal opinion or that of the Commission? Secondly, Mr. Orban declares that the Hungarian government will suspend bilateral political contacts with Vice President Jourova. What does it mean in practical terms? And lastly, what are the steps President von der Leyen is planning to take after receiving Prime Minister Orban's letter? And let me just say, Dana, that I will have another question also on rule of law, but not connected to this topic. So let's leave it there. Thank you very much.
This question, so I will start with your latest sub-question, which referred to the President and next steps. So let me start by saying that we have seen the letter from Prime Minister Orban, and of course we will reply to it. President von der Leyen works closely with Vice President Jourova on the rule of law, and the Vice President has the President's full trust. Our concerns when it comes to the rule of law situation in Hungary are well known. They will be addressed in our rule of law report, which will be adopted tomorrow. In this report, we assess the situation, as you know, in all member states. And the report is meant to be an instrument for a dialogue with the member states, but also with the European Parliament on the aspects related to rule of law. And for the rest of your questions, I will invite Christian to provide your answers.
Yes, Katalin. To come back on your other questions, regarding this announcement of regarding political contact with the Vice President, yes, we are aware of the Prime Minister's statement. The position of the Commission on the rule of law is clear. We work to defend and continuously strengthen the rule of law. In this regard, the Commission continues to stand ready for a dialogue. Our doors are open. And I think the last open element of your questions concerning more concretely the interview as such, what I can say there is that our concerns on the situation in Hungary are well known. There are different ways to express them. This is something that will be addressed in the rule of law report tomorrow.
Merci beaucoup, Christian. I will now invite you to ask additional questions on this subject if you have. So please only keep your hand raised if you have such questions. And I see that, yes, Shandor from Euronews has his hand raised. So please, Shandor, go ahead. Do we have Shandor on the line? We are trying.
Can you see?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you now.
Okay,
go ahead.
Great. Just a follow-up on what Katalin asked. It's not clear for me if calling Hungary a sick or ill democracy, is that now the position of the Commission, or it's just a personal view from Vice President Jourova? If President von der Leyen thinks the same or not, thank you very much. And the second question, the presentation of Vice President Jourova and Commissioner Reynders, that's going to be the presentation of the rule of law report. This is the correct understanding? Thank you.
This last question allow me to indeed to reshare information that I presented at the beginning of this midday briefing. Tomorrow, Vice President Jourova, together with Commissioner Reinders, will present the first Rule of Law report, which will be discussed and adopted tomorrow by the College of Commissioners. On the other questions, Christian.
And on your first question, I mean, I've just replied to exactly the same question to Katalin, and let me repeat. Our concerns on the situation in Hungary are well known. There are different ways to express them. This is something that will be addressed in the Rule of Law report tomorrow. That's what I have to say on this, and I'll not go beyond.
Thank you very much. And for the exact wording of our concerns on all member states, you will need to wait until tomorrow when the report will be presented. So please, at this stage, keep your hand raised if you have additional questions for Christian on this matter. And indeed, I see Lily's hand is raised. So Lily, go ahead. Lily, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, all good. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I have a broader question on the same topic. So Prime Minister Orban did send the letter, and there were some tweets from government officials, but this was also accompanied by some conspiratorial content in outlets close to the government. For example, Origo, which is a media outlet that gets significant funding from the Hungarian state, yesterday ran a headline referring to Vice President Jourova as George Soros's Czech politician. This is not the first or second time or third time that we have seen this kind of conspiratorial content about members of the Commission, and I was wondering if you could comment on that. Thank you.
Very much, Lily. You will appreciate knowing us that we are not going to comment on comments made by various outlets or even by various people regarding members of the college. As we said, we have a letter from the Prime Minister of Hungary, which we're looking at right now and which the President is going to reply to very soon. I wonder if Christian wishes to add anything else to this.
No, I think the only thing I could add is that you should stay tuned for the Rule of Law report, which will be presented tomorrow and which also contains one of the pillars of the Rule of Law report is about media pluralism and freedom.
Thank you very much. I will now further invite you to keep your hand raised if you have additional questions on this matter. And I see that Oliver has his hand raised. So Oliver, go ahead.
Hi, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, Oliver, all good.
Yes.
Go
Good.
ahead.
No, actually my question is, I wrote in the comment thing, I have a question on acrylamide in baby food. So I cede my spot in the queue for anyone who still wants to ask about Rule of Law. But I'd like to come back to the food health issue afterwards, please.
We're waiting for bearing with us until we complete those questions related to the Rule of Law report. So I will invite colleagues to keep their hand raised only if they have questions on this matter. I see several hands raised, and I also see a question in writing in our chat, which I will also take. That comes from Christian. So I will first take Christian's question. He couldn't connect with sound and video, so that's why he put it in writing here. Donc je passe au français et donc je lis maintenant la question de Christian Spielmann. Et cette question est, je cite, l'avancement de la présentation du rapport sur l'état des droits est-il une réponse à Viktor Orban qui a exigé le limogeage de Vera Jourova? La suspension des contacts avec Madame Jourova est-elle recevable et acceptable? Est-ce que Mme von der Leyen compte restreindre l'expression de ses commissaires ou demander une relecture de leurs interviews? Merci. Donc ça, c'était une question qui était posée dans notre chat par Christian. Alors Christian, permets-moi de répondre à la première partie de la question, surtout, qui concerne l'adoption du rapport sur l'état des droits. Comme tu le sais, nous sommes en mesure d'annoncer les agendas des collèges des commissaires, donc les points qui sont à l'agenda des collèges des commissaires, ainsi que leur date d'adoption de ces points, seulement les mardis, après ce que la réunion des chefs des cabinets des commissaires a eu lieu. C'est pour cela que c'est aujourd'hui même que je puis vous annoncer que effectivement le point spécifique dont nous parlons, le rapport sur l'état des droits, est à l'agenda du collège demain et qu'il va être adopté demain également. Et j'ai également présenté les arrangements des communications que nous envisageons pour vous. Donc c'est seulement aujourd'hui qui a été décidé ou clarifié quand ces points spécifiques passent à l'agenda du collège. Comme tu le sais, il y a une multitude de facteurs et de variables qui déterminent quels points sont à l'agenda du collège quand. C'est l'état de préparation des points, des dossiers, et c'est aussi d'autres éléments comme d'autres points qui pourraient être à l'agenda des mêmes collèges, des contraintes éventuelles liées au temps ou au timing quand certains dossiers doivent être adoptés en fonction des conseils, etc. Donc, on ne peut pas parler d'un rapport ou d'un avancement dans la mesure où il n'était pas clair jusqu'à ce matin quand exactement les collèges vont en débattre, va discuter ces points et quand il va être en mesure de l'adopter. Donc, tout autre commentaire sur les timings n'ont pas lieu à être mis en relation avec d'autres événements que tu mentionnes ici. En ce qui concerne l'aspect lié à l'interview et à ce que la vice-présidente a dit, je peux passer encore une fois la parole à Christian, mais il a déjà répondu, je pense, à la question auparavant. Mais Christian.
Je pense que j'ai déjà répondu 2 fois et peut-être je commence par la question concernant les contacts avec Madame la vice-présidente. J'ai dit aussi avant en anglais, mais je peux répéter en français. La position de la Commission en relation d'état de droit est claire. Nous travaillons de défendre et renforcer l'état de droit en Europe. Et dans ce contexte, la Commission continue à être prête pour un dialogue. Notre porte sont ouvertes. Et concernant l'interview, comme j'avais dit, notre position concernant la situation d'état de droit en Hongrie est connue. Il y a différentes manières de les exprimer et ça c'est quelque chose que tu peux lire demain dans notre rapport concernant l'état de droit.
Voilà, merci beaucoup Christian. Maintenant, je passe la parole à David Carretta en pensant qu'il a une question sur le même sujet. David, vas-y.
J'ai deux questions sur le même sujet. La première, c'est toujours à propos de les contacts bilatéraux et la décision d'interrompre les contacts bilatéraux entre un gouvernement et un commissaire. Je voulais savoir si c'est politiquement et légalement acceptable et possible. Parce que j'imagine qu'il faut... Normalement, les traités prévoient un devoir de coopération entre États membres et institutions. Donc, je voulais savoir si c'est pas seulement politiquement, mais aussi légalement possible. Deuxième question, vu qu'il y a un Conseil européen jeudi et vendredi, est-ce que la présidente va en parler directement avec monsieur le Premier ministre hongrois Orbán? Merci.
Merci beaucoup David. Je commence encore une fois par la dernière sous-question que tu as posée et qui est liée à la présidente. Comme tu viens de dire, il y a un Conseil européen jeudi et vendredi et comme d'habitude, la présidente sera en contact avec un grand nombre des chefs d'État et des gouvernements qui seront présents à Bruxelles physiquement cette fois-ci et qui seront dans les mêmes réunions et dans les mêmes bâtiments. Donc, comme toujours, elle sera en contact avec tous les États membres sur tous les sujets. Il n'y a pas une réunion spécifique au sujet de laquelle je peux t'informer en ces moments. J'ai été annoncé ce matin 2 autres réunions bilatérales que la présidente aura à la veille du Conseil européen, mais je n'ai pas d'autres annonces spécifiques à faire concernant une autre réunion. Sur les autres aspects, Christian.
Oui, je pense que j'ai déjà donné notre position, que notre porte s'est ouverte. Comme tu dis, le principe de sincère coopération, c'est important, bien sûr. Ce que je peux peut-être rajouter, c'est que la Commission et les membres du collège doivent être en position de parler avec les États membres aussi sur les sujets difficiles. Ça concerne pas seulement le territoire, mais la plupart des sujets de notre travail. Alors, we need to be able to confront difficult issues together with member states to be able to resolve them.
Merci beaucoup, Christian. Je vérifie maintenant s'il y a d'autres questions à ce sujet. Je suppose que oui, mais le système est un peu lent. Donc, je vérifie les autres canaux que j'ai. Donc, je vois qu'il y a une question de Victor. Victor, is your question about this very subject? If so, please keep your hand raised. Yes, this seems to be the case. So, Victor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I hope you can hear me. This is Victor Danik from Czech Radio. I would like to ask you again on the letter, because Viktor Orbán suggests in the letter that Madame Jourova overstepped competencies of Commission as a neutral institution. So I would like to just ask you if you could clarify if commissioners are actually allowed to comment on issues as a state of democracy or other issues related to rule of law. And then I would have actually another question on different topics, so I'll keep that for later. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, Victor. You are, of course, familiar with the mandate of Vice President Jourova, which covers aspects linked to the rule of law. And in that context, Vice President Jourova communicates on the matters which are related, which pertain to her portfolios. But as you have heard from Christian several times and in at least 2 languages, there are different ways to express our consent regarding the situation in Hungary, and tomorrow the presentation of the rule of law report will give you the exact wording on the position of the college on this. So I will now further invite you to keep your hand raised if you have additional questions on the subject. And I see that Mose has his hand raised, so I assume it's on this. Mose, go ahead. Do we have Mose on the line?
Do you hear me?
Yes, now
Hello?
we can hear you. Yes,
now okay, yes, sorry. Thank you, Dana. Christian said before, and you just repeated it, Dana, that there are different ways to express the Commission concerns about the state of rule of law in Hungary. I haven't read the interview with her, but if the Commissioner said, for example, that Hungary is an illiberal democracy, she just said what, as far as I know, what the Prime Minister of Hungary had said himself in the past, right? So my question to Christian would be the following one. Is being an illiberal democracy good enough for a member state in the Union? Thank you.
Dear Mose, we did have a technical problem, which means that we didn't hear your question towards the end.
I repeated. Okay. Dana, can I repeat the... Hello? Hello?
Yes, Mose, we do have a problem with the sound. Suggest that you switch off your camera so that we have a better quality of sound.
hello, what's happening now? I don't know what happened, but I'm going to write the question. Wait, bear with me. 1 second. One second.
Interest in this matter until Mose writes his question in the chat. And please keep your hand raised, colleagues, if you have a question on this matter. So I already understand that Oliver doesn't have a question on this matter, but on something else. So I wonder if Frédéric has a question on this matter. So please go ahead, Frédéric.
Oui, bonjour, vous m'entendez?
Oui, ça va.
Voilà. D'abord, sur le plan légal, j'ai toujours pas très bien compris si ça posait un problème légal à la Commission que la Hongrie interrompe ses relations avec un de ses commissaires. Et j'aimerais savoir plus précisément en pratique, vous dites nos portes sont ouvertes au dialogue avec la Hongrie. Est-ce que ça veut dire que les portes du cabinet de Mme Jourova sont ouvertes ou d'autres portes? Est-ce que vous invitez le gouvernement Orban à prendre contact via d'autres canaux ou est-ce que vous voulez l'inviter à garder contact avec le canal du cabinet Jourova? Je voudrais savoir cette décision a des implications pratiques sur votre communication. Et une dernière chose, au sujet de la réponse que fera la présidente de la Commission, est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner une précision sur le timing? Est-ce qu'elle compte l'envoyer rapidement aujourd'hui ou dans les jours qui viennent? Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup pour tes questions, Frédéric. Alors, en ce qui concerne la première question, la Commission a des relations et des contacts à tous les niveaux possibles, entre les plus techniques et les plus hauts politiques, avec tous les gouvernements. Et ces contacts sont effectivement un moyen très important pour nous de poursuivre notre travail de la Commission européenne. Et nos portes sont ouvertes, comme Christian dit, toutes les portes de tous ces niveaux sont ouvertes pour travailler de manière constructive avec le gouvernement hongrois ainsi qu'avec les autres gouvernements de l'Union européenne. Pour le timing concernant la réponse à cette lettre qui nous est parvenue, si je ne m'abuse pas, hier dans la journée, on est en train de rédiger une réponse et cette réponse va être envoyée au gouvernement hongrois une fois qu'elle est finie. Mais je n'ai pas de précision à te faire sur une date précise. Cette lettre a toute notre attention. C'est la seule chose que j'aimerais ajouter. Entre-temps, Mose est de retour, je pense, et il aimerait poser sa question. Nous donnons encore une chance à notre connexion audio pour voir s'il peut se connecter. So, Mose, are you there? Can you ask your question now through audio?
Dana, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I'll be very short. I said before that I think that the Hungarian Prime Minister himself has described Hungary as an illiberal democracy. So my question is, I also wrote it to you in the chat, is being an illiberal democracy good enough for an EU member state? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Mose. I think that this expression, illiberal democracy, doesn't belong to the vocabulary that the European Commission has developed and is using in relation to the rule of law situation in the European Union. So you quoted other political stakeholders who may be using this, but this doesn't belong to our vocabulary. As regards our position regarding the situation on the rule of law in all member states, Hungary included, you will need to wait for tomorrow, where you will see the fine print of our position, part of this first rule of law report that we have been producing following a very inclusive and long work with national governments and with all the networks of national contact points which have been established for that purpose. I will now invite you once more to indicate your interest for asking an additional question on this subject. So please only keep your hand raised at this point if you have such questions on the rule of law. I understand that Vladislav has a question on this, so Vladislav, go ahead.
Hello, Dana. Thank you very much. I understand that this question has been asked, but I will ask it once more on the legality of what just has happened. So Prime Minister Orban talks about the principle of sincere cooperation. Does the Commission consider this principle to be a legal issue? And if so, is Hungary breaking off ties with the Commission a legal issue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will invite you, Vladislav, to read the letter that you are referring to, and I haven't seen anywhere anything about a government breaking ties with the Commission. And for the rest, I can perhaps invite Christian to sum up in one sentence what we said about our contacts, which continue with the government in the sense of our doors being always open. And that should close the matter, I suppose.
Yes. As we said, we stand ready for dialogue and the doors are always open. Let me also repeat on this question about breaching rules that the Vice President has, as Dana said, the President's full trust. The Commission and the members of the College must be able to speak with Member States also about difficult issues. And as I said, this is not limited to the rule of law, but applies in most areas of our work. So we need to be able to confront difficult issues together with Member States to be able to resolve them.
Thank you very much, Christian. I trust now that we have exhausted the possibilities to answer questions on this subject at this particular stage. This letter that you were referring, each of you, will be answered, and you will have further information on our official position there. I will now open the floor to other specific questions on other subjects. I see that, yes, Oliver has been waiting for a long time, so thank you very much, Christian. And Oliver, go ahead with your question about food, if I'm not wrong. Yes.
Yes. Oui. Alors, en fait, ma question concerne le vote hier soir dans la commission d'environnement et santé et je pense aussi sécurité alimentaire au Parlement européen. Le Parlement rejette les teneurs maximales que la Commission a proposées pour certains denrées pour les petits-enfants et les bébés. Et ce sont les teneurs maximales de l'acrylamide qui en fait cause du cancer. Donc je voudrais savoir ce que la Commission veut faire maintenant, si elle considère que la critique du Parlement est correcte, qu'en fait ces teneurs n'étaient pas assez élevées. Donc merci.
Merci beaucoup, Oliver. I will invite Stefan to connect. If he is there, yes, there he is.
Yes, I'm there. Hello, you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon. Hello, Oliver. I don't think there's a lot I can say at this stage, but to stress the fact that it's, of course, important for the protection of public health to regulate the presence of such substances in such a way that it provides a high level of human health protection, including, obviously, protection of young children and babies. These levels must be set as low as reasonable, but I will have to keep it at this for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I will now invite colleagues to ask additional questions to Stefan, if they have on this subject or anything else. I see Momchil's hand being raised, and I wonder if he has indeed a question for Stefan. So, Momchil, go ahead. Do we have Momchil live? You need to open your mic, I'm told.
Hello. I'm sorry. My question is also in relation with Hungary, but I'm ready to mute and to wait.
So, Momchil, we close the discussion on Hungary because Christian has amply answered to all in relation to the letter that Prime Minister Orban has sent to the Commission President. So if your question refers to that, please refer to the ample answers that were given by Christian. If your question refers to anything else, you are free to ask it now. I understand that we lost you. You are not there anymore, so perhaps you can tell us in our internal chat in response to this whether it was already covered by the previous discussion. And I understand that Lorenzo has a question on food. That would be for Stefan, so Lorenzo, go ahead.
Yes, I hope you can hear me well. Yeah.
We can hear you just, but it's all right.
Very good. Yesterday, the Commission has approved the authorization for a new genetically modified soja, which is tolerant to 3 different herbicides. The news was a little bit hidden, let's say, in the midday. It was there, but what was not clear in the way you communicated was the fact that there has been an opposition by a majority of member states to this decision in the past, 15 member states against and 3 abstained. This is not the qualified majority, so it was not enough to stop the proceeding. But there was also a resolution by the Parliament in May, which was voted by a big majority of the chamber, and the resolution asked the Commission not to proceed with the authorization. And there was no mention of this in your communication yesterday. I was astonished for that because, I mean, the Parliament has a voice in this process, even if it has not the power to stop the authorization. I mean, there were concerns about this authorization because of the residues of herbicides in the GM food and feed, this soya. One of these herbicides, glufosinate ammonium, is not even authorized anymore in the EU. And I don't understand this. Why did the Commission consider that it was its legal duty to proceed with the authorization when there were so many factors against it and the Commission totally disregarded them?
Lorenzo, I will now indeed give the floor to Stefan to present you more information about this decision, which was announced by us yesterday. So, Stefan, are you there?
Yes, I'm still there, Dana. Hello, Lorenzo. Good afternoon. What I could say about this is that all the member states had the right to express their views in the Standing Committee and subsequently also in the Appeal Committee. Now, given the outcome of the process, the European Commission had the legal duty to proceed with the authorization, which is indeed what has happened. So I believe that we have followed the rules here which apply to the approval and adoption of such organisms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I will now further invite you to keep your hand raised if you have additional questions for Stefan on this or on other matters. So, Lorenzo, you have a follow-up question. Please go ahead. Lorenzo, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now?
Good, you are there.
Yeah. Yes, this is my follow-up. This is the first time that the von der Leyen Commission is approving a new GMO in the EU. For import and commercialization. Now, my question is this the interpretation that the von der Leyen Commission gives of the comitology procedure, that they have the legal duty to proceed when there's no qualified majority, even when there is a majority of member states against it? Because there was a discussion about this with the previous Commission, and the discussion was about the fact that if there is a majority of member states, even when it's not a qualified majority, that opposes a decision, then the Commission could not proceed. So I understand that this Commission has in some way decided to tighten the rules in this way, considering that it's legal duty to proceed in the comitology procedure, even when this is not very clear, and the parliament says that is not actually. The parliament, the resolution of the parliament said it was not the duty of the commission to go on to proceed. So my question is, have you taken the position now that it is your legal duty to proceed even when there is a majority of member states against?
Lorenzo, I will give the floor to Stefan to clarify again, but I think that in terms of legal text, a few things are a matter of opinion, and I believe that the rules are also public, so there can be several interpretations, of course, but you can have yours. But I clearly give the floor to Stefan to present our position on the legal aspects of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this question. First, I would like to stress that we, of course, follow very strict procedures when it comes to these kinds of authorizations. What we put at the center of our work is obviously the public health of our citizens. I would like to stress that from the beginning. Now, what I would like to say with regard to the legal aspects and the issue of GMO authorizations, may be good to know that the Commission submitted a proposal to the Council and the European Parliament in 2017 to change the voting rules at the Appeal Committee. These rules, if they were adopted by the co-legislators, would indeed increase the transparency and accountability in the decision-making process. Our intention is to improve the current system, addressing specific concerns that arise where member state representatives are unable to take a position on a draft implementing act presented to them by the European Commission. So we are working on this to make sure that we have a good, transparent and accountable decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I will now invite colleagues to ask additional questions to Stefan if they have any at this stage. I understand that Victor has a question for Stefan. So Victor, go ahead. Victor, are you still there? You need to open your mic. There you are. Victor, we can see you. But you just need to speak. You need to ask your question. We have sound, we have video, but we don't have your question. All right, I understand there is a technical problem, so we'll try to connect Victor again. So we give it another try. Do we have a chance to have Victor at this stage? No, it doesn't seem to be the case. So then we will try to take Victor's question later. And I will now give the floor to Raf, who probably has a question on a different subject. So Raf, go ahead.
Yes, hi everyone. Yes, it's on a different question. It's on Brexit. Maros Šefčovič has until tomorrow night to make a very important decision what action to take. And I have two questions. I was wondering to what extent he would be discussed at the Commission meeting tomorrow with all commissioners. And secondly, I also wanted to know how you will communicate about this. It's an issue of great interest to all involved. And also for video, I would just like to know whether you will have somebody coming out at noon for the briefing, or how we will learn about this and how we will be able to present this. Thank you.
Question, Raf. So regarding what is on the agenda of the college tomorrow, I have specified at the beginning of the meeting which are the points which are on the college's agenda. However, as you know, and as always, the President can decide to add additional points for information or for discussion regarding any press arrangements in which we would communicate next steps on the measure that was presented to you by Vice President Šefčovič. We will make those arrangements known as soon as it is possible and it is appropriate to communicate them. So I have no specific announcements to make on this, but stay tuned, and in the next few days you will hear from us on that. I wonder now if you have additional questions on this topic. And please keep your hand raised if that is the case. I see that Nicolas has his hand raised, mais je comprends que Nicolas a une autre question sur un autre sujet. Donc, j'ouvre la question à d'autres sujets, mais je pense que Raph a d'abord une question des suivis. So, Raph, you go first.
Yes, it's a very simple one. The detailed trade discussions resumed this morning, and I just wonder if we could get an update where we stand, if anything has happened, and how it looks. Thank you.
So that would be a tall order for Dan to be able to provide you updates on talks which started this morning, but he will do his best. And very briefly, please.
Indeed, extremely briefly. Hi, Raf. My answer will be very, very short. The talks began this morning. They will run until Friday, as per the agenda that we published, and I don't intend on briefing until after that round.
Thank you very much. Short and clear. I will now give the floor to Nicolas, who has been waiting for a very long time to ask his question. Donc, Nicolas, vas-y, c'est à toi.
Oui, vous m'entendez bien?
Oui, Nicolas, ça va.
Oui, Nicolas, ça va. Bon, parfait. Non, c'était un plaisir de vous entendre parler d'autres sujets. Je voulais, moi, plutôt parler de la question des sanctions de l'Ukraine, si tu permets. Le tribunal de l'Union européenne a annulé à nouveau les sanctions mises en place par l'initiative de la Commission européenne, du haut représentant et du Conseil sur les détournements de fonds en Ukraine pour manquement répété aux droits de la défense et non-respect en gros de la présomption d'innocence. Je voulais savoir si la Commission européenne avait l'intention de modifier son dispositif et d'annuler donc l'inscription de ces personnes sur liste noire. Pour bien m'exprimer, en fait, à chaque fois que la décision est annulée, il y a une nouvelle décision qui est prise pour remettre les personnes sur la liste sans tenir compte des remarques du tribunal ou de la Cour. Donc je voulais savoir sur quoi cette position était fondée. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Nicolas. Peter m'a rejoint pour t'apporter une réponse.
Merci pour la question, Nicolas. Je n'ai pas encore d'informations sur la décision des cours que vous avez mentionnée, mais comme toujours, sur les décisions des cours, on va respecter la décision et on va prendre les mesures nécessaires pour corriger la situation.
Merci beaucoup, Peter. Je vous invite désormais à poser d'autres questions à Peter si vous en avez. Donc, à ce stade, s'il vous plaît, gardez votre main levée seulement si vous avez des questions pour Peter sur les affaires étrangères. Et je pense que, voilà, Nicolas d'abord a une question des suivis. Vas-y, Nicolas.
Oui, c'est une question de suivi, c'est plutôt pour Peter, mais sur un autre sujet, parce que je pense qu'on va revenir sur le sujet ensuite, sur l'Ukraine. Je voulais savoir, concernant l'opération Irini, il y a une épidémie de coronavirus à bord du navire amiral. Je voulais savoir comment se passait maintenant le suivi de l'opération de contrôle de l'embargo au large de la Libye, puisqu'il n'y a plus de navire amiral.
Merci Nicolas. On continue. L'opération n'était pas affectée pour ces incidents sur le sujet de quelques membres de l'opération qui ont été infectés avec le coronavirus et qui sont en quarantaine, mais l'opération en général continue à faire le devoir qu'elle doit faire. Donc l'opération continue normalement.
Business continuity, as we say. Merci beaucoup, Peter. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions pour Peter à ce stade sur des affaires étrangères? Je pense que Augustine a une question pour Peter. On va essayer de garder les questions courtes et les réponses aussi parce que nous avons un briefing technique qui va suivre.
Yes, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, Augustine, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes, I have a question on dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia, whether there is any news when the next meeting can take place. And regarding the main issue in the dialogue that was also an obstacle for the meeting, the creation of association of the municipalities with the Serb majority. We heard from the German government and also from Serbian side. What is the position of EU? Should this association be created in accordance with the Kosovo law? Because Peter last week, I think, said that EU expects Kosovo to come with the proposal how to implement this. So should the implementation be based on the Kosovo law and based on the ruling of Kosovo Constitutional Court? Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. On the second one, I mean, I have nothing to add to what we already said on this issue, so the line still stays the same. On the first part of the question, the everyday work continues. The everyday work on making it possible so that the chief negotiators and the political leaders can meet eventually at one point continues. We will, of course, as always, announce the date and agenda when appropriate.
Thank you very much, Peter. I will now try to take the last questions of today. Are there any additional questions for Peter on foreign affairs matters? David, I believe that your question is for Peter, so please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Question, yes, on Libya and Italy, in fact. There is a story on the New York Times about Caprera, which is an Italian warship. It was based in Tripoli to coordinate the Libyan Coast Guard, and this ship was also involved in a smuggling of cigarettes and violation of arm embargo. I'm wondering if the EU has financed this operation and the activities of this ship Caprera in Tripoli. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Usually, you know that we don't really comment on the various reports in various media. When it comes to this specific incident, I'm not sure this is really new. But if there is a case of Italian entity or Italian ship breaching allegedly the UN arms embargo, I mean, this is for the Italian authorities to take up the case and investigate and take necessary steps in cooperation with the UN panel of experts. You know that whatever is monitored or called by the EU operations in terms of violating the UN arms embargo, we are conveying and reporting to the UN panel of experts for the appropriate follow-up.
Thank you very much, Peter. I will now try to take the last questions of the day. Victor is back, and I understand that he has a question for Stefan. Victor, I hope that we can have you online. Otherwise, we will provide you an answer at a later stage. But first, David has a follow-up question. So, David, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Because Peter didn't answer my question. The point is if the EU has financed the operation of this Caprera warship. And the second point, so if I understand well, if Turkey violates the arm embargo, the EU can sanction Turkey, but if Turkey entity. But if a member state violates the arm embargo, the problem is not the problem of the EU. I'm right on this? Thank you.
That's why I said it's if there is indeed enough proofs and enough indications that the arms embargo was violated by an Italian entity or Italian ship or Italian asset, then it's up to the Italian authorities to make the necessary steps in terms of either investigating or punishing those responsible.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Peter. I will now give the floor to Victor, trying it again, to ask his question to Stefan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking my question again. Czech Republic is going to run out of its stocks of remdesivir in less than a week. So I was wondering if you could give us a quick update on the negotiations with Gilead Sciences, how they are currently looking like, and if there is any plan for the nearest future to distribute remdesivir among member states. Thank you very much.
I will now give the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much, Victor, for this last but not least question. What I would like to stress here in this context is that we have a joint procurement procedure which is ongoing, actually, to access this remdesivir. The joint procurement procedure has been launched on the 11th of September, and the evaluation started on the 21st of September. We hope now to sign a contract with the company so that orders can be placed as of early October. 36 signatories of the joint procurement agreement are participating, including all EU member states. So we hope, as I said, that as from early October, member states, including the Czech Republic, can place their orders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I will now take the last questions of this midday briefing. I see David's hand still raised, and he wrote in the chat that he wishes to ask further to Peter about funding. Peter doesn't have any information to provide you on this today, David, but he will duly come back to you once he has information about this specific question on the funding for this ship. And the same question was asked by Nikolai, so Peter will come back to both of you after this midday briefing. I now owe the floor to Katalin, who had signaled at the beginning of this meeting that he had an additional question on the rule of law, not related to the letter from Hungary. So if Katalin is still online, I will give her the floor to ask that question, which was signaled very early on during this midday briefing. Katalin, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much, Dana, and thank you for not forgetting about this. This is the so-called Lex NGO, the NGO law. A Hungarian NGO specialized in human rights education was denied EU funding because it didn't declare whether it is a foreign-funded organization. The Hungarian law, which obliges NGOs to communicate whether they are foreign-funded, was recently declared unlawful by the European Court of Justice. So the question is the Commission aware of the fact that its decision has been unlawful when denying EU funding to this NGO? Thank you very much.
Yes, hi, Katalin. What I can say on this is that the decision of the Court of Justice, or the decisions of the Court of Justice of the European Union, are immediately binding towards the member state concerned. That member state is under an obligation to take prompt measures to comply with an ECJ judgment. Regarding the case at hand, the Commission has sent a letter to the Hungarian authorities on 7th of September and asked for clarifications regarding the steps taken to implement the judgment. We expect the Hungarian authorities to take all the necessary measures to comply with the ECJ judgment. Hungary has until 13th of September, so until tomorrow, to inform the Commission on the steps taken in that respect.
Thank you very much, Christian. And I believe that was the last question for us today. No, actually, David was waiting for a very long time as well, and that will indeed be the last question of today's midday briefing. So thank you to Christian, and David, please go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Dana. A question I think that's for Balázs, again, returning to the theme of coronavirus measures and the Commission's working procedures. As I understand, commissioners are now deciding individually which travel is essential, which in-person meetings are essential. So the question is, is there a need, given the rise in infections, for a more uniform approach given that we hear from some DGs and cabinets that some staff are required to be at the office in person, others are not. And then the broader question, which perhaps I didn't ask succinctly enough yesterday, which is about the logic of the Commission and the EU in general following the Belgian national guidelines, as opposed to potentially developing its own guidelines, given that the EU's working procedures are quite different from those of any particular national government. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the question, David. Indeed, Balázs will provide you details, but just on the first remark that you made about certain colleagues in the Commission needing to be present physically and work, and other being able to work remotely. I think we had the opportunity to discuss about that in the past. We have very clear rules in place which provide for flexibility because each service needs to be able to deliver on its mission and on its tasks, in particular at these extremely challenging times when the Commission needs to act fast to help overcome the coronavirus pandemic. And on the other aspects of your questions, Balázs will be very happy to provide more details.
Indeed. Hi, David. I saw your questions by writing as well. I'm sorry not to have had the chance to reply until now. So I think our position on missions is very clear. Only essential missions are allowed. Everything else should be had via video conference or should be replaced or even cancelled. Now, what is an essential mission in terms of commissioners? It's for them to judge on an ad hoc basis what they consider as essential. That's our approach. We are not going to change it for the moment. Now, your second question concerns whether we should abandon our policy of aligning our measures with the hosting nation. No, that's definitely not the case. We continue to think that this is the right thing to do, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you very much, Balázs. This will end our midday briefing of today. Please stay connected for the technical briefing on the European Interoperability Gateway Service for Coronavirus Tracing and Warning Apps, which follows right now. See you tomorrow.